So no one will notice this because we're really good. But I thought this is a nice way to start the podcast. Whenever we have a week off, because we've had a week off. People haven't noticed we've had a week off, but we've had a week off. I always then really look forward to the next recording. I miss it in the week off.
No, I genuinely do as well. I'm surprised you said that. I thought you were going to be like, I had a lovely week off, and then I'm going to see all of your faces again.
I mean,
I suddenly remembered why I needed it.
I did have a lovely week off, but I did. Yeah, no, I miss doing it. But yeah, no one will notice, so I've ruined the magic. But
No, you've absolutely ruined it.
I'm waiting for an anecdote. I thought that because what you've just done, that's a classic Chris Coe. I'm just setting you up for an anecdote about my observations on the world. No?
No, it's just a nice thing. It's just a nice thing for you all, isn't that pleasant?
That really is. Oh, I do have a question for you, Scott. What hotel chair are you joining us from this week?
We are in the Hilton in Southampton, not the utility boat, but another one.
Lovely.
Hotel chair.
I know why he's asking this.
Yeah, my homeless travels have taken me onto new pastures, Mr. Feakes.
Oh, to new past, new experiences. And I'm just going to leave that hanging for anyone who gets the reference.
Me and Tom, like after the last recording, I looked back at it and I was like, Scott was sat in the hotel cuck chair in the corner, wasn't he? Just watching the with the bed.
I'm not actually staying in a hotel. I'm in I've got my true place. I've got a tent in a car park. That's all I've got, and I just sneak into a room to do this, and then just run out before housekeeping sort of suss me out.
Oh, I thought you're just constantly in a tent, but you carry around a massive green screen.
Surely the tent is the green screen.
Yes, if you see any sort of anyone vagrancy or anyone walking past in the background, just go with it. Keep rolling. Don't worry about it. I can't confirm that I've got a bottle of Buckfast next to me or something like that, just to see off the winter cold.
I was tempted because part of the reason we didn't record last week, I was away and I was in Germany, and I was tempted to try and do this week's intro in German, but I feel like I'll butcher it and offend our one German listener that Spotify tells us that we have. So I think maybe I won't. Maybe I'll save that for another time. I'm trying to relearn my German, so maybe when I'm a bit more confident, I'll try it.
You mean you don't remember anything that Thomas Mills taught us from German? I think I remember near the cathedral, and that's about it.
Which is really handy as long as you always stay near the cathedral.
So it's so useful on multiple occasions.
Always end up in a city, whatever you do.
I love the fact that we are, reinforcing the stereotypical image of British people being just totally ignorant and shit at languages.
Oh, we're terrible.
Well, do you want me? Shall I quell that? Shall I do it in German?
No, there's no need. No.
It's content, Scott. Come on.
Oh dear.
Start now then with obviously play the intro.
Oh, okay. All right, there we are. Yeah. Well, you said
no, in German.
No, I don't know. I don't know how to say that in German.
Hold on.
Hang on, I'll get there. I'll get there.
Come on, Google search. Let's do it properly.
Yeah. We'll get it. We'll get it. Everyone, just wait. We'll get to the Blood Bowl. We need to cover German first.
Yeah, Tom Hovell, don't start mentioning what you were mentioning a few moments ago either.
There we go. Yeah, no, don't. Yeah, leave
that. Nothing to do with German history.
No. Right, everyone. Spielen Sie das Intro.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Dice Please, the bite-sized Blood Bowl podcast brought to you by the people at Blood Bowl Live. My name is Chris. Joining me this week, Mr. Scott Bryan. Scott, what is your pancake topping of choice?
Good evening, Chris. It would be ice cream.
Okay, cool. And joining us also, Mr. Tom Hovell. Tom, pancake topping of choice.
Classic lemon and sugar.
See, I'm in the lemon and sugar camp as well, if I'm honest. That's what I just say. And also joining us, Mr. Tom Feakes. Tom, pancake topping of choice.
Nutella, banana, and strawberry.
That's a good range, I've got to say. That's a good range. I did also have
No,
honey yesterday.
no savoury though.
No savoury.
savoury.
I do like
So
I do like ham, egg, and cheese actually. If I do have a
you
savoury one,
can't
but
go back now.
I
Like you
will
say,
go for lemon. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll stick to it. I'll stick to lemon and sugar.
Good.
Anyway, enough about pancakes. We're at least as this goes out live to the world, we're at least 2 days past Pancake Day. No, instead this week. A little bit of context for you. The league that myself, Mr. Bryant, and Mr. Hovell play in came to an official close on Sunday for our Prayers to Nuffle cheers event, celebrating all of our winners and raising a glass to a good season. We're now on a bit of a break, but obviously one season comes to an end, and immediately me as someone involved in the organization starts to ponder the new season and what we could do and what we could change. So I thought, who better than these three adorable morons for me to ask people for some out there league rules that I'm gonna go ahead and say it now. The chances of you ever actually seeing them in a league are probably pretty slim, but some league rules that we think could be an interesting ones to deploy. I've got no idea what these three have prepared, but they're each going to pitch me a new league rule or combination of league rules, and I will judge which one I think is the best. If you are an ADBBL coach, don't worry. Probably not actually going to put any of them into the league, so don't panic. But let's see what they come up with. And who am I going to pick on first? I feel like I'm going to pick on Mr. Hovell first, because if it's anything like the undead, then it will give me much enjoyment as to what he comes up with. I'll be interested to see whether this is a league rule that just makes undead better, or necromantic horror better. But Tom, Tom Hovell, what have you come up with?
Well, I thought long and hard, and this could either work for league or tournament. So picture the scene, okay? You're an owner of a stadium, which has quite possibly seen better days. So in the off season,
Man United. Sorry, I had a bit of a cough there.
so in the off season, you decide to have a bit of a refund. So you get some quotes in, and you're clearly not paying dwarf prices. And goblins are more into demolishing your building rather than building it. However, Squeak and Sons, with the slogan "Many rats make light work," catches your eye, and you hire them for the job. And they do a fantastic job. However, you don't realise that these filthy vermin have fly tipped the whole load of half-used warpstone beneath the field. Okay, so each and every game you play, a player in the league, regardless of race, gets a random mutation for that match only. Okay, so how it would work was before each match, each coach first of all picks one player on their team to receive a mutation for that match.
They pick one, or they randomly choose?
No, they pick the player.
Okay.
They have to pick the player first. Then both coaches roll a d16. Okay, and so 1 to 12 are the mutation skills in the rule book.
Okay.
So, and they're alphabetical. So big hands is 1, very long legs is 12. Okay. If you roll a 13 or 14, you get to choose the skill. If you roll a 15 or a 16, your opponent chooses that skill for you. Okay.
But not a mutation.
The mutation, yeah.
It has to be a mutation.
It has to be a mutation. Has to always be a mutation.
Okay.
So, and the mutation disappears after the game. So the player returns to normal. Okay. Now there's a bonus to this, which I call the Warpstone Surge. Okay. In the event that both players roll the same D6 number, so if both players roll, for example, 2, it causes every player on the field to get a random mutation for the match.
Jesus Christ.
You go through the entire team rolling for the random mutations.
Okay. I quite like this. I honestly thought you were going to say like 1 to 12 is the skills, and then like there's a chance that they get too much warpstone and they just die if you roll a 16. Where I thought you were going, but I like this idea. The chaos of both coaches selecting the same rolling the same number on the D16, and therefore both coaches having to go through every single player on the team. I just hope that no one brings Snotlings with a full Snotling roster. Scott, Tom, what do we think of this one?
You want to go first, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, go, please.
Yeah, I'm happy. I really like it, in actual fact, and I was trying to pick some holes in it. I'm presuming this is for. Would this be for every team, every match, not just
every chaos team, not just a chaos team or a Skaven team? No, every team. So if you're humans or orcs or anything like that,
yeah. My only criticism, and particularly if they roll the double, and that's not me saying I wouldn't want to play it, because I absolutely would. It would be a lot of fun. There's a prayer to Nuffle where one player gets a primary chosen primary skill. That at the start of the match can take you a good couple of minutes to decide what they're going to get. If you suddenly have every single player, you've got half an hour's decision making before you even start.
I suppose.
Yeah, and then finding the skill tabs.
That's a lot of loom bands in it, Tom.
It's a lot of loom bands. all with different colours.
All with different colour loom bands. Scott, what do you think on this one?
Well, first of all, I'm going to be calling my stockbroker as soon as we finish to sell any shares that my pension may have in any IT companies that Tom Hovel works for, because obviously he's been doing sweet FA in terms of work for the last day or so. And also, Chris, can I quote you for my TripAdvisor saying that as an adorable moron? I might put that on my CV as a skill set. I think, I'm not sold. I think introducing a random rule is pretty much the same as some of the pitch rules. So therefore, why don't you introduce pitch rules to your league? Things like the lava floor, where you've got mighty blow +1 for any casualties, etc., etc. So I think if you were doing it and you said, actually, we're going to introduce, like Bloodbowl 3, the pitch rules, and introduce this as a Skaven mutation, so therefore you could expand it, say we'll have one rule for each race. So whoever's the home team, that's the mutation pitch skill set attribute that applies to that particular match. So if you expanded it to that, I think that would be quite cool. So example, if the Bitey Ducks, he's not paying attention.
I am. I'm looking for a D16 is what I'm doing.
Right, and just to make it
simple. You don't have a dice bag on your desk.
Yeah,
Come on.
D16, I got one.
Well, basically, let's say, example, Mr. Hovel, we were playing, and you were playing your new Skaven, and I was playing Wood Elves. If you were the home team, then it would be this as a rule, the Skaven rule. If then it was role reversal and it was the Wood Glade, let's say you're playing in an Elven, you have a rule for Elven to say, I don't know, you fall on soft grass, so therefore Mighty Blow is not applicable. Things like that, specific rules. That would be I like the idea of having that element of randomness, but I like it tailored to the home team, if that makes sense.
I am wondering, thinking on it like that, I am wondering, like you did say at the start, it could be league or tournament. I wonder whether this is better suited for a tournament, because that over a whole league is potentially. No, and this is not me saying I wouldn't play it. I 100% would, because it's chaotic and I love it. The only other thing which I failed to mention, seeing as I work for the Environment Agency, I feel the need to mention that New Dice Please does not, under any circumstances, even in fancy worlds, endorse fly tipping. I feel like I just need to get that in there.
Well said. Actually, Tom, isn't this a rule set for one of the games up in Norfolk? I think.
Is it?
I thought that I'll send you the link, but I'm sure it was on the NAF in terms of tournament, because it's around the cake or death time, about the 15th of 16th, 17th of May, and I'm sure they've got a random mutation one as well. It's in Norfolk, because I said to Mrs. B, "Did you want to go to Norfolk? And you can drop me off, and I'll play some Blood Bowl." She sort of said, "No, because we're going to be over. It doesn't matter." But I like the idea. But I would, if it's for a league, I would have it as there is something reflecting the nature of the home pitch or the home stadium impacting the team. You expand it to that, you get my vote.
Who's got a D16 in front of them?
Tom Feakes.
Right. Okay.
And Tom Hovel.
So right, Feakes. We're gonna roll off and see whether there's any chance that we get the same number. Okay.
Okay.
What'd you get?
7.
Right. 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Tom, you guys roll off.
10.
10.
Right. Okay. So we've only done 2 rolls, and you've got the same, and you would have to go through every single player. I think it's very evident that Mr. Hovel plays his vampires and therefore loves Blood Bowl admin for the prospect of having to roll randomly for every single player.
Exactly. More Blood Bowl. What's not to like?
Okay, Tom, you've got us off to a very, very strong start here. Let's have a look. If I roll 1 to 8, I'm going to say it's Mr. Bryant, and that's a number 3, Mr. Bryant. What is your league rule that you are pitching?
I've got a few, but the main one I'm going to go with is I'd like to see SPP losses. So I think if a player gets sent off, I think they should lose SPP, not just for that anything earned for that game, but you lose, say, star player points, whether it's 1 or 2. I think if there's a number of fouls that you cause, so if, for example, you cause 6 fouls, you can lose 1 SPP. So what it tries to mitigate, it tries to reflect a real life sport whereby bad performance and can have a negative effect over the course of the season. I also think that any self-inflicted casualty, so if you're a wood elf and you dodge out and you have dodge and you fail, then you should lose SPP for just being crap. I also would like, and I've been thinking about this, to introduce some sort of mechanic about painting. And the reason is, if you look at Warhammer 40k, the way they score that, they actually do introduce 10 points in their scoring roster for each player if they have a fully painted army. So I think they should, it's in there. I'm laughing. I'm not on drugs.
Okay.
But
So
it's about how you can incentivize people to bring in painted teams and encourage them to make sure the team is painted rather than, I don't mind playing grey, but instead of just playing grey. So that's what I thought about as well for that. I've got a few others, but I like your opinions on that.
So on the painted side, ADBBL season 3, you got a bonus point for having a fully painted team within the group stage. So that I know is done, and it does look good when all the teams are painted, to be fair. I feel like as soon as you started talking, I could hear the sound of Goblin coaches crying all over the country at the prospect of losing SPP. So how would it work?
No, they can still foul, but it can't necessarily be with the right or the same player. So if for example
if they're sent off, they lose it.
If they're sent off, they lose it. But let's say, and then you can say, well, only if they, argue the call and fail the call. I don't know, but if they get sent off, then they lose SPP.
You could basically gamify that and just have a like a lineman that would just constantly be your fouler, and then you sack them every game, and then get a new one.
You kind of get that anyway, don't you? A lot of people do that. Like as soon as people get dirty player or sneaky get, that's normally the go-to fouling piece. But how would it work then? For example, let's take a human lineman. You get 6 SPP. Let's say you give them block. If you then foul enough for them to lose the SPP, do they lose the skill and then gain 5 sitting SPP to spend? Or once it's spent, it's safe?
As once it's spent, it's safe. So in your example, if they had block and they had acquired a further 6 SPP, if they got sent off, then obviously they would lose against that SPP. So they'd be blocked with 5 SPP.
Okay, so
or you can introduce some randomness. I had put this down as the I don't know, in terms of the NAF would come along, and like they have in sport, they have an arbitrary independent ombudsman who would come along, and you could randomize a dice to say up to D6 lost SPP for being sent off. So you could lose 1, you could lose 6, depending on the severity.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
But, anyway, I haven't got all the technical details that you love so much, Chris, because some of us, Tom Oval, were working today, believe it or not.
Okay.
I'm sufficient at my job.
I'll just write that down for your PDR with your boss. Anyway,
Mr. Feakes, what do we think of this?
I think I need to find a drawing of a person and ask where the nasty goblin hurt you.
I know where the nasty goblin hurt him. I think, Tom, you know as well.
I hate both of those suggestions. I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan of fouling, and I'm not a big fan of the continual fouling. But it is part of the game, and it's a big part of the stunty teams trying to level it out. And admittedly, the tournament I went to a couple of weeks ago took Dirty Player and a real fouling build with Underworld. It was incredible. It was disgusting. It was absolutely horrible, and I wouldn't want to play against it. No, I think that would end up driving more people away. And the painting side of it, yeah, I understand it, and I do get that. For me, particularly when I was starting out, I was definitely struggling to find the time to paint and find and work the time and work out my setup and everything like that. So there were a few matches that I had to play grey. So I would worry. I think that with that one, it maybe depends on how well established your league is. If you've got a lot of regulars that you know are going to be able to do it, fine. If you're setting up a new one, I wouldn't want to say bring that in because you're likely going to disincentivized, if whatever the word is, put a couple of people off. But yeah, sorry, I don't like either of them. Sorry.
Funny enough, my other suggestion for a league rule was kind of the opposite of what you've just mentioned there, which was, I called it Rising Star, where you nominate a lineman in your team that starts with 0 SPP, and they earn 1 SPP every time they participate in a match, and they'll gain an extra SPP if they score a touchdown or cause a casualty or have an interception in that match. And it was kind of like an idea to encourage player development and get new people to understand how you can skill players up. So that was my other kind of suggestion on that side of things.
okay.
That could be interesting,
Just,
particularly for a slow developing team, I suppose. Like particularly for someone like dwarves. But let's face it, then they're not going to get a load of touchdowns. They're not going to be getting that much SPP. So that could be an interesting way of going.
But then wouldn't you expect dwarves to get more SP through casualties compared to a normal standard, other team, like a human team?
I don't think dwarves need any incentive, do they?
No,
really?
I don't. My other two, just conscious of time, and we need to give the spotlight to Mr. Feakes. My other two were, I think that there needs to be a minimum dress code of either loungewear or lycra, depending on that. I'll go with either, but nothing in between. I think also in terms of, I go back to one of the things we've talked about before, in terms of settling the results, I think there just needs to go, it always needs to be a result, so it needs to go to not extra time, because otherwise it'll be too much. But if it's a draw, I think you give the coaches the option of, looking for a result through the form of modern interpretive dance. So I still think there's something in there to be had for us all. I also had an idea about increasing things like the rush difficulty. So in terms of a mechanic, instead of having a 2+2+2+ rush, the first rush would be a 2+. You could rush another square for 3+, and then maybe you rush a third square for a 4+.
Yes, I absolutely 100% agree on that last one.
Thanks.
I think
1 out of 4.
Well, no. I also agree on your other two, but mainly because I want to play a match against you with you wearing lycra.
I'm accommodating.
Tune in for Strictly Come Bloodbowl. Yeah.
So, interesting point on the a game always gets a result in NHL in hockey. If you win the game, you get 2 points, whether you win in regulation, overtime, or penalties. if you lose in overtime, you still get 1 point, but then there are no draws. So if you went to a draw, you're both guaranteed 1 point, but then the winner at the end of it would get a bonus point for winning the game. So I think that could actually work quite well if your point system reflected the fact that every game had to end with a winner, but you just gave the person who took it to overtime an extra point. I really like that. I really like ice hockey as a kind of points and game system for Bloodbowl leagues and stuff. I think it could work really well. Okay, right. Mr. Feakes, then we've left you till last. What have you brought for us?
So I've got a few ideas floating around in my head. The one that I've settled on is about a redraft league, and I'm trying to bring it maybe closer in line with like a transfer window season in between. So you get your star players, they've had a fantastic season, and the big offers start coming in. Can you actually negotiate a new contract with them? Can you actually persuade them to be on there? So any star that you are wanting to have again in your next team, roll a d6. If you get a 1, they effectively turn into free agents, and then it will go into like the NFL draft, so that then they're open for other teams to take. Obviously, then those other teams will have to pay a premium, so there'll have to be an extra TV cost for those players coming in. But you don't necessarily get your star players coming through next season. It just adds a bit of flavour to it.
Would that mean then? Because I think that's really interesting.
I quite like this.
I like that. Would that mean as well? So first of all, would you have a mid-season transfer window and a out-of-season transfer window?
I was just going out of season because otherwise it's going to get quite complicated.
Yeah, and then I was going to ask. It would be interesting if, for example, Mr. Hovel, if let's say I was running Skaven, had a particularly good gutter runner. If then I rolled on your example, I rolled the 1, that Skaven is now not happy, so they want to leave. They look to go, and their agent goes out. If then Tom Hovel came around, and let's say he was playing humans, would he be able to recruit that Skaven gutter runner into his human team or not? Or would he only be able to recruit canon appropriate and lore appropriate races?
For anyone
And
who
if- and-
you
yeah.
can play for. Yeah.
But if then he could, would then Tom have to say to me, I will give you 250k because I've got that in my petty cash for your gutter runner. I need to play them for the human team.
So yes,
maybe with an animosity. I don't know.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. Is yes, they can then go and play for any team, but there would be an animosity there, and it would probably be all of the original team to the new star player coming in. No, they would not give you any money because he's left at the end of his contract.
Would you be able to open it up to say if someone approached you with a transfer bid mid-season?
Ooh.
So therefore, Tom Hovel, we could have a new ADBBL transfer record.
Then it also, so with that scenario, there's a Skaven gutter runner open to play, but there's going to be more than just Scott and myself playing in the league. So who does the Skaven player go to?
Highest bidder.
And in the financial fair play, you have to prove you've got the money.
Yeah. It purely goes to the highest bidder, and I think it would have to be worked out a little bit so your zero TV snots can't just go along and pick up everyone.
Yeah.
Because then you would
a team full of people with animosity.
Yeah, exactly.
11, so
11
wouldn't that be though? But even if you had a snotlin with everybody with animosity, wouldn't that be great in terms of the lore of Blood Bowl? With a rich mystery backer bringing them all in, but they all hate each other because they're only there for the money.
Yeah.
So I think this idea has legs, but here's my problem: if you're allowing everyone, so take the example of the humans wanting to buy the gutter runner, right? So you're allowing those humans to buy the gutter runner and add them to their roster. Fine. Are you then allowing a Skaven team that already has 4 gutter runners to buy a 5th through the transfer window?
No.
So then that feels like a problem to me, because if you look at, say, if you look at Skaven, so let's take Skaven as an example. Let's say you've got to build 1 thrower, 2 blitzers, 4 gutter runners, and then you go out into the transfer window and you buy 2 war dancers. You're going to be insanely powerful, but you're not letting the other Skaven coach have 6 gutter runners. I wonder whether this works if you have to keep within your kind of allocated race and player allocation. So a human could buy any other human thrower, and they could buy human thrower from Renegade or from OWA because they also are there. Although the stats are different, so something to take into account. But they can't exceed their limit, because otherwise, I think I think it would favor certain teams that you look at and you go, oh god, if they just had this one person, they would be insane.
Yes, and I can see the argument for that, particularly with making it a bit more simplistic to actually organised, or at least fitting in. So like Badlands Brawl would only stay with Badlands Brawl, and that vague, those vague races.
So what do you have then to that point then? If you just take that then, sorry, Tom. If you say like Badlands Brawl, but if you took say Elven Kingdoms, would that mean that you could have, you could have your Wood Elf team, and therefore you could suddenly bring in an assassin as well from a Dark Elf team, and in theory you could bring in all of the other Elven, like a thrower from High Elves. Obviously it's going to be subject to how much money you've got, because you don't want to end up being Man City versus Ipswich in terms of the budget.
I think maybe you would have to basically tier positionals within teams, and then you would have to say, like, for example, a Wood Elf, like if you've already got 2 Wood Elf War Dancers, then you can't buy a Witch Elf from the Dark Elves. But if you've only got 1, you can buy the other. So you can kind of keep almost like a tiering within it. So so like take Amazons and Norse, because they're a good kind of mirrored example. If the Amazons wanted to buy an Ulfwerner, they wouldn't be able to take one of the like Jaguar blockers. They could only kind of hit the quota of 2 within the team to keep there being a balance. But so you would kind of, all of your teams would end up creating their own versions of OWAs and Renegades and the other one that I've forgotten, Underworld. But you still keep a relative level of balance within it.
That does mean that if you had Orcs, you would be able to have Bull Centaurs in the team, because they both play Badland Brawls. That would be an immense team.
Would be incredible.
Insane.
But then do you say to that point then, again, it's working out what is that tier and level within that then, Tom? So you say you can bring in a Bull Centaur, but you lose a big one.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, because what is the comparable? Because you could argue, well, is it a Blitzer? Or is it a bigger? I suppose
he's got 4 legs. Maybe he's 2 blitzers.
I feel like we could do a whole other pod on just what tiering would be with the models, but I'm absolutely not against that. I would be quite happy with it. Having said that, I wouldn't want to be the one that has to do the admin to work it out.
Yeah, because we've talked about like I've had conversations about how would kind of like a NFL draft style system work within a league format, and I think where we kind of landed is a way that it could work if you wanted to do that is you could maybe, when you get to the end of the season, maybe the players that you've got to choose from in the draft, rather than being players, you take from the players kind of skill packages. So it could be that you've got like a positional with a primary skill and a stat increase. And rather than drafting in that player, which might not actually fit or be allowed in your team, you draft that skill package that you can give to one of your players. So if the Wood Elf coach has a War Dancer with 2 primary skills and an agility increase, then the Skaven coach could kind of choose that skill package and give those 2 primary skills and the edge increase to a gutter runner. So you're sort of building some sort of system in, but it would work. It would require a little bit less admin, and it would work within kind of the confines of actually how you build a team and how that would be, right?
A simpler kind of thing would be, for example, you have the best skilled player from the previous league becomes a superstar, and they are 200k, say for example, and they're available to everyone. So for example, you can have, like, in our one, we've got a souped up beastman called Nanny, who I think everyone would love to play on their team. And you can basically say, right, Nanny isn't going to play for that team anymore. They're available as a superstar. They can play for that team, but they have to be classed as a superstar for that team. But they can be available to anyone else who plays him.
You can create them as mercenaries, couldn't you? You could create them as custom mercenaries. I think you could do that for I think that's a much easier way to do it. Where you create, which is something again that I think we've talked about. You for our league is having legacy superstar players turned into stars or mercenaries for teams to be able to take to kind of keep the legacy going, because some of them are incredible, some of them are amazing.
I think that definitely the on the Merc point, that was kind of I was trying to think of something around that, because that's something that happens in the Noble League where I play, where every year we get, I don't know if I've got any behind me. Oh, there we go. There's a little one. There's, based on whoever's won the divisions last season, they each get a Merc going in for the season afterwards, with a few characteristics about how they've played and a little joke about the coach, because, why would you not? So it's like this one, I don't know if you can see, I think he's super throw, and his thing is when he lands, if he can get chucks, but then he lands on his throw, so his landing's better.
Okay.
But that sort of thing, just giving it a little bit of flavour with whoever the players have done really well. I like that. To be honest, I'd do both.
So now comes the point where I pick which one of your 3 special league rules I would most want to pick up. And which way am I going with this? I think I think there's more legs and variety in creating a draft system. I think I'm going down the route of the draft system with my top one. I do like the idea of doing a league where you really lean into the professional sportsman level, and therefore you punish things like fouling, and you put dress codes where you have to turn up in a team tracksuit or a suit and all of that stuff. And you have something that feels very kind of like very formal official sportswear. I think narratively is very, very fun. And I think Tom, Tom Hovell, I think yours would be great fun in a tournament. I think after your 3rd or 4th league game, you might be pulling your hair out. But in a tournament, I think would be fantastic. But I think I'm going to give my choice to Mr. Feakes. So congratulations, Mr. Feakes. I think yours is the one that I would select.
Thank you.
I would
play all of them. I would still play all of them.
I would go with Tom Hovell's, with the little caveat that you have a pitch attribute as you do on Bloodbowl 3 for whoever is the home team.
I did think about along the lines of those special rules about balls and pitches and stuff, because they've spent so much time and effort putting them together, but I've never played one at all.
Yet.
Well, if you have a out there bizarre or incredibly sensible league rule that you would like to have been introduced into your league or like to see played, if you thought one of us was the best or one of them was the worst, or you just completely all out disagree with everything we ever say and want to tell us how bad we are, then hey, Mr. Scott Bryant, how do people get in touch with us?
Mr. Christopher Coe, if people are moved emotionally to put pen to paper, to put finger to keyboard, or to write to their MP to demand we get taken off air, whatever their prerequisite is. They can also send us an email. The usual fun address, newdiceplease, or one word, or lowercase, newdiceplease@gmail.com. And Mr. Tom Hovell, if people want more of this insane witterings or more Blood Bowl fun, action, and drivel, where can they go for that entertainment?
Yep, sure. So we are on Instagram and Blue Sky under New Dice Please, and also on YouTube on the Blood Bowl Live, where not only can you see as well as hear us, but we've also got the last season of our league at Aardvarks and Dragons on there.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We've been New Dice Please, and we'll see you next time.
No, you need to do it in German.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm going to try this, and if I butcher it, then it will just go in the bonus bit at the end, and then I'll do it again in German. Okay.
Get it in German.
In English, I'll do it again in English. Okay, right, here we go. Okay, here we try. Hallo und willkommen bei New Dice Please, dem kleinen Blood Bowl Podcast, präsentiert von der Luton von Blood Bowl Live. Mein Name ist Chris und dies Woche sind Herr Scott Bryant, Herr Tom Hovell und Herr Tom Feakes zu mir gekommen.
And welcome to the hello version of New Dice Please.
That was a bit shit. I'll put that in the. That'll be the bonus bit at the end of the podcast.
Leave it in, Chris. That was actually quite for someone who doesn't speak that much German. That's genuinely quite impressive.
We'll put that in the bonus bit at the end. I'll do it in English. Here we go.